Hello everyone, my name is Sky Madrid, and this is my Full Sail Design Tools 1 Pecha project on Vikings. The Viking people, they were North Germanic seafaring people who explored, raided, and traded across a wide area surrounding them. They traveled to the North Atlantic islands, Asia, and Europe from the late 8th to the middle 11th centuries. Polytheistic people. They believed in multiple gods and made offerings to these gods in forms of sacrifices, uh, like goats or chickens, and sometimes even people. These people were strong and hardy, living in an area that was very harsh to them. The land there, the soil there, was not very fertile, so farming was very, very difficult, other than potatoes, carrots, and other things that were deep rooted into the ground. But they managed to survive for an extensive period of time and made quite the impact on history. The Viking Age spanned from the earliest known raids in the 790s until the Norman conquest of England in 1066. The Normans themselves were descended from Danish and Norwegian Vikings. These were warfaring people. They conquested and took over, even took slaves into trade. The Viking expansion was when the Vikings explored the northern islands and coast of the North Atlantic and ventured south to North Africa and east to Russia, Constantinople, and the Middle East. Signs of Vikings can be found in many cultures in their history to show these people came to their lands. The end of the Viking Age came by the late 11th century. Royal dynasties that were made legitimate by the Catholic Church began to push Christianity and kind of force it with a little more authority and push their rule. The three kingdoms of Norway, Denmark, and Sweden had taken hold, and Christianity had taken quite the foothold in each one of those kingdoms. Their warfare tactics were different than most cultures. They were just brandished and straight out when it came to battle. They came in swinging, almost berserk-like. In fact, the term berserk became applied to them due to their soldiers charging in battle with two-handed axes to clear the front lines. Like this picture here shows one Norse warrior defending the ship as his fellow soldiers pulled it ashore and got ready. He swung a two-handed axe to clear the lines or take out as many soldiers as he could before he was probably felled in battle, to make sure that his men were able to get the boat ashore and get the rest of the battle on his feet. Viking women, known as shield maidens, fought right alongside the men there. Often they were husbands to one or two of the soldiers, so they followed along so they could possibly die in battle and go to Valhalla, the legendary meat hall in their heaven. These women were just as strong and just as brave as the men soldiers. Now, the Norse were quite intellectual when it came to their ships. They were able to design the hulls to be flexible to kind of glide over the waves of the crashing ocean, as well as handle some of the shallower waters when approaching shores or even going upstream to go to more inland villages to raid. They had two basic ships. The long ship, which was used for war. It had a long and narrow hull and a shallow draft to facilitate landings in shallow water. It was used to carry a lot of men towards the village for raids and exploration. The Nar was a merchant ship. It had a broader hull and a deeper draft with a limited number of oars used to maneuver in dock areas. The Nar was made to carry cargo across distances for trading routes and merchant ships. A single merchant or a crew would take it to another village. They carried weapons, which, as a custom, all free Norsemen were required to own weapons and were permitted to carry them at all times. These weapons were indicators of a Viking's social status. Vikings stood out for their uses of axes in battle, although they did use swords, but their use of axes really set them apart from many other cultures at that time. You can see here there are swords that have been taken from burial sites. The soil corroded a lot of the material, but you can see that it was a basic blade just used for hack and slash to tear apart as many enemies as possible. It was never anything beyond that, really. As far as physical history, they didn't leave much on paper, but as far as runestones, they wrote in their language Runuk, which was a basic written language based off of vowel and letter sounds. These runestones would depict stories of either great battles where many men had fought and died, or where other men had stood out in that battle and taken charge in what they had done. They had really shown themselves where they were. So a runestone would be erected to commemorate them. Another set of famous runestones was the gelling stones. These runestones date between 960 and 985. The smaller stone is older of the two and was raised by King Gorm the Old. The larger stone is one that depicts the Danes' conversion over to Christianity and was raised by King Gorm's son, Harald Bluetooth. So you can see here the symbol for the Norse religion, the wolf here on one side of the larger stone, and on the other side, it's hard to see, but it shows a picture of Christ being crucified. The smaller two stones being the one raised by the old king. And here at the burial sites, a lot of archaeological evidence was found here at these burial sites, but a Norse warrior, if fought in battle, was laid to rest in the land of where he came from, buried with his stuff like his sword, his axe, amongst other things that he would need in the other world. Some final notes on the subject. A couple of common misconceptions. Vikings did not wear horns on helmets when used in battle. Another one is Vikings did not drink from the skulls of their enemies. That came along from an old phrase used that they would use, the horn of the skull. Thank you for watching this presentation, and I hope you learned a lot on Vikings.